met with the surgeon the other day. I said, look,
Fairfield County is moving forward in the fight against one of America's fastest growing public health concerns, liver disease. The good news is that by improving understanding and awareness, prevention and treatment can save lives. The bad news is that in the U.S. alone, 30 million people are living with liver disease.
Fatty liver disease is on the rise with obesity, with the problem of obesity. So it's really important that we get out there and educate people that they cannot live without their liver.
The Liver Life Walk directly impacts the American Liver Foundation's ability to provide research, education, patient services, and support groups. And more importantly, it's a gathering of those touched by the effects of liver disease.
I'm a donor. I'm a living donor.
Barbara Jankowski is going to donate a portion of her liver to her mother.
My mother has HCC. It's a hepatocellular carcinoma. It's liver cancer. And for me, it's like the circle of life. She gave me life. It's very rare as a child that you get the opportunity to give that back.
And every year, the foundation aims to choose a champion to put a face to their cause.
Good job!
A year ago, I didn't even know what side of my body my liver was on. Yay, livers!
When Smith made the choice to travel abroad to study film and television in Australia, she was cast in a drama of her own.
And now I am the foremost authority on all things livers.
Upon arrival in the land down under, Alexis just wasn't feeling like herself.
And the second I got off the plane, my legs were swollen.
This course that she was in, very active. They like to walk every place and go every place and do this and do that and the other thing, and she just wasn't able to do it.
People said, oh, it's just because of the long flight, but 2 weeks of having swollen legs and gaining weight and no appetite, I started to think, well, there's something happening here.
She just said, I don't know what's wrong with me. And as a parent, knowing that your child, it's not like it's 5 hours or 10 hours away. She was on the other side of the world.
I was completely alone.
Her first visit to a doctor resulted in tests for deep vein thrombosis and thyroid condition, which turned out to be negative.
He sent me on my way and said, oh, don't worry about it, you'll get better.
And after a second visit, even diet pills were prescribed, leaving her feeling
completely insulted. It was horrible.
And the situation still unresolved.
This was all during Hurricane Irene.
So we had lost power, and between no power and the time difference,
my parents were pretty much helpless on the other side of the world.
I'd be sleeping and my cell phone would be next to my bed, and I would hear it buzz and I'd look at it and it would say, I'm getting worse.
Finally, I went for a third opinion, and someone finally took me seriously for the first time.
It was after another blood test that Alexis's condition was diagnosed as Wilson's disease, a disorder in which the liver cannot process and properly filter the copper in the bloodstream.
They said, listen, you need a liver transplant, you have 6 hours to live, and just hope for the best.
I hear the Australian doctor's voice and his accent saying, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you need to get on the first plane over. Your daughter is an acute liver failure, and I can't promise what you'll find when you get here.
Within just hours, she went to the top of the liver needs charts.
For me to get a liver in that amount of time was just unheard of.
And Australia is as large as the United States, but only has 22 million people.
They called this a 1 in a million situation.
And with such little time to spare and little information, Mr. and Mrs. Smith boarded the first plane for Australia.
We're making it all the way. Let's go.
I'm recognizing the reality of getting there as being nothing that you can do very quickly.
They didn't even know that I was getting a transplant. No one realized that it would happen that quickly.
And unbeknownst to David and Sue Smith, as their plane shifted altitudes and traversed time zones, Alexis's surgery was already well underway.
They got a telegram on the flight.
Nobody receives telegrams on airplanes.
The flight attendant came and woke them up and said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, your daughter received the transplant and everything went okay. And the entire plane started crying and clapping and standing ovation. They got there right as I had been brought into the ICU.
I never, ever in my life had any idea how brave she was. This was a kid who couldn't even have a finger prick, quite honestly.
After 6 weeks, I was back in the States. Everything is perfect, and I have an Australian liver, so it's kind of crazy.
When someone is diagnosed, the entire family is tested, which for the Smiths led to yet another alarming discovery.
Her sister also has Wilson's disease.
I was prepared for what was to come. The rarity of that is just
1 in 640,000.
So thanks to the awareness and early intervention, Taylor Smith can move forward and live with liver disease.
You can treat it with medication, you can treat it with yearly checkups, and that's just what we're doing. She probably never has to experience a transplant, so I'm so thankful that I went through it so that she didn't have to.
Her sister basically saved her life.
And how long has she been sick for?
I'm inspired. I'm inspired to see all of these people that survive, to see the recipients and to see like the quality of their life being so great and that they're here, you know, supporting the cause.
I feel ultimately grateful for my sister going through all of this trauma and all of this hardship just so I could be diagnosed. It's just a miracle.